again. Uh, this video is all about mindsets and VIA strengths. And the reason I put this in here is because it's kind of this issue of making sure we have a good self view as we move forward. These things are important to me because in some ways they change my perspective on teaching. They change my perspective on what I need to do to be successful. And so that's why we're taking some time to go through these. It's also in the syllabus, so if you want to read some of that and see some references to these things, and obviously you're taking the VIA assessment, I'm hopeful that you find it interesting and can provide you some insight. But ultimately, we'll start with mindset, and that's a Carol Dweck thing. And she's a very famous psychologist out of Stanford. Done a lot of research. I've actually followed up on her research at different times on mindsets in education, especially in higher education. VIA strengths comes out of Martin Seligman's work at the University of Pennsylvania. And so both are interesting kind of pieces to add to your understanding. So let's take a quick minute and go through those things. First, the mindset piece. As I said, there's Carol Dweck. My colleagues and I did a paper back here in 2012 about it as well. And it's kind of this idea that if you have this fixed mindset, we'll talk about that in a minute, you have a hard time in what they say or what we might talk about is calibrating, what your performance is capable of versus what you think it is. Okay. Now you'll hear people talk about this in the psychology literature as the Kruger and Dunning effect, that gap. But ultimately, we think we can take some of that back to this idea of mindset as a way to improve that. So when we talk about these things, the fixed mindset is we're going to be very outcomes focused. I, on the other hand, am very process focused. So for me, it's not about a final grade or score on an exam. It's what did you learn? What was the process along the way? And can you appreciate that journey? A lot of times we validate ourselves based on our existing beliefs. The idea that if I have to put in a lot of effort, I'm just not going to be good at it. I have that belief when it comes to water skiing. Okay, I tried it once and tried to drown at the same time. So I was not willing to put in the effort to get there. And so it would have taken a whole bunch of effort. And so I just decided I've got low ability and blew it off. Now, this is one thing though, motivated by learning and self-development. This is the whole focus for me in education. So I can understand it much more in the context of what I do. I hope you can understand that in the context of being in this program. You may try to assess your ability relative to folks in the class, and you'll put that under the framework of competitiveness. Well, this doesn't have to be that way. Okay, compare yourself to the material. What do I know? What have I learned? And so that's one of the reasons we have module level assessments. Okay, let you see how you're doing relative to material mastery. It's nobody else's business but yours about what you get on any assignment. So that's the thing that may be a little bit different in the way I approach things. Oftentimes our confidence is fragile. I expect that your confidence levels can be pretty high, or you wouldn't be thinking about an entrepreneurial path. However, sometimes that can be misplaced, and when you get a lot of different no's as you go along, your confidence can be fragile. One of the things we need to think about in terms of a growth mindset is how do we make that a little more resilient? To protect ourselves, sometimes we screen out negative feedback, but we need to find more balanced. I'm not saying that you need to avoid negative feedback at all, but if that's all you hear, that's not necessarily helpful. And so as a result, you're kind of looking for that balance. And then sometimes we want to blame others for things that happen. In reality, for a growth mindset, we're always kind of thinking about this idea of, okay, how can I overcome my failure or things that didn't go right? I'm going to take responsibility for that. and try and fix it. So I'm hoping that everybody works in this class in more of a growth mindset. One of the challenges for adult learners in an MBA program is they've got to switch gears from what they remember education being back as an undergraduate or even back in high school as memorization. Now it's more of an issue of mastery, not memorization. We talk about the VIA characteristics, the idea being that my top five, whatever your top five are the things that really drive you. And if you're not doing that, you're not having any fun. And so ultimately, mine are these. Creativity is number one. Humor and playfulness is number two. I do love to learn new things, so I hope you'll share new things with me. I try to be kind and generous, but sometimes I can get really prickly. Uh, and I'm pretty curious about what's going on in the world. And so when you think about those, creativity is up here. Okay. Love of learning for me is down here. What else have I got? I've got kindness in here. I've got, well, I don't have any of this. And humor's down here. So that's my, oops, I'm missing one. What am I missing? Humor, kindness, creativity, love of learning, and wherever curiosity is, that's the one I'm missing. So I'm curious about where it is. Oh, there it is. So I ultimately am full of wisdom. But nonetheless, with that, I hope you find that interesting and an interesting perspective. So with that, we'll call it a day on this topic, and we'll move on to other things in other videos. So hang in there with me. Yes, I promise it's an accounting class. Bye.